1 month before I married the boy next door, Hart brought a college girl to the estate we'd picked as our marital home and threw a rager. When I walked in, they were kissing deep and slow. Julian lifted an eyebrow, totally unfazed. "Skyla, don't be petty. It's just a house. I wanted something fresh. You're still the only one Grandpa Walter stamped for Hart." I cried until my eyes burned, slid off the engagement ring, and walked out without looking back. Julian assumed I was sulking. Hart dialed his real estate mogul uncle and asked the man to pick me a new villa personally. "Victor, I don't trust anyone else. Take Skyla shopping yourself." A month later, convinced I'd called off the wedding, Julian showed up at the clifftop villa with 99 roses. I hadn't slept all night. I kicked him toward the door. "Have some boundaries. When you're dumped, don't come chasing your aunt." Julian's eyes flashed red. Through clenched teeth, Hart demanded, "Tell Skyla to come out." The man in the doorway looked down at him and chuckled. "Your aunt just fell asleep. She's too worn out to come downstairs." Before we go on, hit subscribe and tell us in the comments where you're tuning in from. I barged into the rager, clutching the property deed, ready to confront Julian. Empty bottles littered the floor. Liquor soaked the linen sofa I'd handpicked. A pretty fragile girl sat astride Julian's lap. His fingers pressed into her bare waist as they kissed like the world had vanished. Whoops and catcalls threatened to lift the ceiling. The scene stabbed straight through what little fantasy I had left. I stood frozen, toes numb, blood sluggish. Someone finally noticed me in the doorway. The raunchy hush that felt heavier than lead. Julian's gaze flickered once, then steadied. Multicolored lights painted every face a different shade of voyeur. It took me 5 minutes to cross. "Julian, you transferred our marital home to her." I looked at the girl from Hong University beside him. Hart curled an arm around her shoulders and shrugged. "Chloe hates storms. The place is close to HKU, so I signed it over." A spike of pain lanced my chest. "Julian, that's the home we were going to share. You know how many weekends I spent choosing tiles? How many nights I lost sleep over paint swatches? It's just bricks and money. Skyla, don't be small-minded. Relax. The wedding's still on next month. I only wanted a taste of something new." Tears brimmed. I laughed bitterly and flicked the engagement ring into a champagne flute. "Julian, I no longer want to marry you." His face iced over. Fury pulled in his eyes. "My grandpa kept 5 wives. My dad keeps mistresses. You expect me to stay celibate? The title of Hart is already yours. What more do you want?" It felt as though someone had hollowed out my heart. I turned and left without another word. Hart kicked the coffee table so hard the marble cracked, then held a wine bottle at the wall. "Skyla, name one trust fund brat in Hong who doesn't cheat." The night breeze was cool. Streets brimmed with people rushing for shelter. I drifted along. Shoulders jostled again and again. Rain started as a drizzle, then dumped in sheets. I stared blankly around me. The city dissolved into wet smears of neon. Wind whipped my soaked hair across my face. For a moment the pain numbed, replaced by a tide of pure grievance. I let the rain muffle my sobs. Memories with Julian flipped like a slideshow. Sweet, sour, euphoric. Hart fluttered quick, then vanished. Time to cut the cord. A black Maybach slid to the curb. Ethan lowered the window and called me inside. Victor sat in back, tailored black suit, sharpening the aura that kept boards of directors trembling. Youngest son of Walter, legend of Hong property. I climbed in, dripping, and murmured. Victor Hart gave a slight nod, passed me a towel, and went on scanning contracts. His voice was low, almost coastal neutral in its Mandarin perfection. I inched toward the window to shrink myself. "You're afraid of me?" "No, Victor." Harshness betrayed me. "I'm only sad." "Thank you. If you hadn't sent Ethan, I'd still be in the dark." That morning, Ethan had met me for coffee and slid the deed transfer across the table. "The boss felt you had a right to know." I inhaled sharply. "Victor, can I break the engagement?" "That's not mine to grant." My stomach dropped. "If you truly don't want Julian, pick another groom." Late April brought Hong's first red alert typhoon. Highways closed, streets flooded. Victor told me to stay at his place. After a shower, my eyelids looked like overripe peaches. Victor produced 2 bottles of aged Bordeaux and asked if I drank. I nodded, tipped the glass like tap water, and kept refilling. Hart rested his chin on one hand, ankle on knee, studying me. With that method, you're murdering good wine. I sprawled among cushions, muttering, Hart, men are insufferable. Hart laughed. Skylar, guilt by association is unfair. I hugged a throw pillow, dizzy. Victor, is there really no exit? The York alliance matters to both Hong and Macau. Evening scenes flashed behind my eyes. Tears rolled uninvited. I can't vow my life to a man who can't keep his pants on. Victor moved closer, thumb grazing my lower lashes. The family has more than one bachelor, Skylar. My alcohol-soaked brain latched on to the word options. I tossed the pillow, crawled into his lap, and stared at the chiseled face inches away. Courage surfed on the wine. Victor, are you single? What'd I do? Julian's eyes, no Victor's, turned midnight dark as they traveled slowly over me. My nerves wound themselves tighter without my permission. His hand slipped unhurried over my brows, the tip of my nose, my cheekbones, my chin. Skylar, Hart said, this is the road you chose. That night, Victor wrung every last ounce of strength out of me. Beads of sweat soaked his hairline. His eyes were bottomless black, breathtakingly sharp. Victor, how long has it been since you? Hart clamped a hand on my waist, tilting my flushed face toward him. No one, Skylar. Only you before. Now always. At first, Light-Art finally let me go. The phone on the nightstand blinked once. Julian had WhatsApped Victor. Victor, there's a snag with the wedding loft redo. Could you pick Skyla a new one? I don't trust anyone else. Could you handle it yourself? Skyla's temperament is really gentle. Victor flicked a glance at the claw marks scoring his shoulder. Gentle. Hart saw no evidence of that whatsoever. For when I woke the next morning, I rubbed my eyes and felt the ring on my middle finger was different. I opened my palm and stared. The engagement ring Julian had given me had been swapped out. For several blank seconds my brain blue-screened, then last night replayed on an endless loop. My face scolded. I burrowed under the quilt and refused to rejoin reality. Alcohol had loaned a coward courage. I had actually slept with Victor. After 15 minutes of ostrich tactics, I struggled upright, waist aching, and tottered to the edge of the bed. Old men have no sense of moderation when they set their mind to something. Outside, rain poured in solid silver sheets. My phone was clogged with push alerts. The first announced a red alert typhoon. Average rainfall already 4 inches. More forecast all week. Multiple bus routes suspended. Victor stood at the floor-to-ceiling glass taking a call. Warm lamplight sanding away his usual steel edges. Hearing me, his heart turned. In that amber glow, his bone structure looked too flawless to be real. My heart missed a beat. I bit my lip, fingers twisting the hem of the borrowed shirt, and looked away. Victor finished in rapid Cantonese and ended the call. My clothes were ruined, so I borrowed your shirt. It suits you, Hart said. I ducked my head, letting my hair curtain my burning cheeks. Hart tucked the strands behind my ear, slipped an arm around my waist and pulled me in. No need to be shy. I like every version of you, Skylar. The island's flooded. Stay here a while. Afraid I'd refuse, my heart blocked every exit. Think of it as a trial marriage. High five. When the whiskey haze lifted, Julian felt only hollow. A soft girl lay curled against him, fingers clutching his shoulder. Hart peeled her hand away, face cold, and slid from the bed in his bathrobe. At the glass wall, Hart stared at the unbroken downpour, dazed. Skylar had looked wrecked when she stormed off. Now the city was drowning, and Hart didn't know if she'd made it home dry. Hart couldn't grasp why she'd been so furious. He had only sampled what was on offer. She'd gone to London for grad school for 4 years, and he had waited every single one. Everyone in their circle knew how Hart felt. The Harts and the Yorks were never short of cash. Give the condo away. Buy a better one. Problem solved. Hart opened WhatsApp, started and deleted a dozen texts, pride choking him each time. Hart swore under his breath and called a mutual friend. What's up, Master Hart? Need advice on grilling? Julian's knuckles whitened around the phone, but Hart stayed silent. I warned you. Cheat in secret and you'll roll the car sooner or later. So how did she catch you? The question grated but worry one. I transferred the wedding loft to someone. Skylar found out. We fought. She ran out crying. Then the red alert hit. The line erupted in a curse and went dead. 10 minutes later a text arrived. She's at Victor's safe. Julian, no one can fix this for you. Go beg on your knees before she's gone for good. Julian opened her chat and sent a single emoji. You are no longer friends with this contact. Message not sent. Hart stared at the words, fury flooding his eyes. Skylar had actually blocked him. The red alert typhoon parked over Hong for a week. Victor, insatiable as a wolf, kept demanding more. Hart traced the ring on my finger, then drew slow circles over my heart. From now on, only I live here. Eyes half hidden by hair glittered with conquest, ownership, a sliver of mean delight. I couldn't take any more. Tears blurred my vision. Only you, I whispered. Victor smiled, pleased, brushed the tears away and kissed my eyelids. Good girl. I clung to his shoulders like a skiff in a typhoon tossed all night. Next morning the mirror showed bruised blue shadows under my eyes. I resolved to go home. I steeled myself and tapped on the study door. Victor sat at the desk in square blue light glasses. Immaculate. I shuffled over and mumbled. The rain stopped. I should head home. Hart tapped the desktop, signaling me closer. When I perched on his thigh, Hart circled my waist. Fine. Pack what you need and move in soon. I blinked. Move her in. We're engaged. Shouldn't we live together? Julian and I had never cohabited before marriage. Victor read my hesitation and softened his voice. You slept with me. Don't you owe me responsibility? Wait, who exactly owes whom? 7. After prolonged wheedling, I secured a few days' reprieve before the official move. I bounced off his lap and scampered to pack. Victor leaned in the doorway, sulking that he was happy to leave me. I flattened my smile, but it kept breaking free. Hart crossed the room and hugged me. 3 nights of waking up with you spoiled me. Cold sheets are going to feel like exile. The words set off tremors in my chest. I'm coming back, I mumbled into his shirt. Hart ruffled my hair, eyes warm. Before I drive you home, we'll eat. Hart took me to a private Hune kitchen famous on the island. I love spice. Julian would tolerate only Cantonese heat, so every meal had been a compromise. Victor noticed my indecision at the menu. Order whatever. We don't have to get everything now. Reservations here are impossible and the wait's brutal. The chef's a friend. Come whenever you like. Mid-meal, Hart brought up our situation. I'll speak to Dad as soon as possible. In Hong, Walter commands both daylight and shadow. Hart forged the Hart Empire with an iron fist and guards its name like a falcon. Skylar and Julian's wedding ceremony had been locked in for both date and venue. So swapping the groom at the last minute would inevitably set the tabloids speculating for days. Seeing my clouded face, Victor spoke up to comfort me. Don't worry, if anyone's going to get yelled at, it'll be me. Easy for him to say. Hart was Walter's favorite son. Don't look so skeptical. Hart will call me shameless for stealing my own nephew's fiancée. Just then, Julian's buddy pinged him with a photo. Grabbed Hune food today and ran into Skylar with your Victor. In the shot, Victor's arm circled Skylar's waist, eyes sparkling with flecks of laughter. The two looked unmistakably intimate. Julian figured Victor was simply a man of his word. Hart assumed it was only lip service, yet Victor was actually out house hunting with her. Once she accepted the apartment, her anger should cool. Any day now, Skylar would remember how good Hart was to her, soften and coax him back. Since she had blacklisted him on WhatsApp and hadn't sent a single message all week, Julian decided to let her stew a bit longer. No point in feeding her vanity. The pleasant thought swept the gloom from his chest. Hart was just typing a thank you text to Victor when another message popped up. Don't you see what's off in that picture? Julian couldn't spot a problem and had no patience for riddles, so Hart fired back. The way they're looking at each other isn't normal. Have you ever seen your Victor smile at a woman? Julian found it ridiculous. She's his future niece-in-law. A smile is basic courtesy. Should Hart glow her instead? Arms around her waist and fingers interlaced, too. Hart's helping me talk her round. She's ticked off at me. Remember Julian. Could it be the two of them are sneaking around behind your back? Get real. My high and mighty Victor would never go for Skylar. Plenty of women outclass her, and Hart doesn't glance at them. Forget I said anything. With that, the friend went silent. Ignoring him, Julian finished composing his thanks. Victor, Skylar's being childish. Sorry for the trouble. Thanks for talking to her for me. Drinks on me soon. The Maybach rolled through the gates of Hart, the staff lining up to greet it. Inside, Walter was coaxing his newly bought parrot to talk. To stay in the old man's good graces, the bird squawked compliments non-stop. Now in his twilight years, Walter had begun stepping back, letting the younger generations mind the empire, while Hart passed his time with birds and flowers. Among all the grandchildren, Hart favored Victor most, ruthless, bold, and far-sighted, every bit as hard on himself as on rivals, with the same vicious streak Walter had had at that age. Yet Victor had struck out on his own in property development, barely touching the family's core businesses, which irked Walter no end. Walter slid him a sidelong glance and kept spoon-feeding the parrot. Finally remembered to visit your old man. The bird's beady eyes rolled and it screeched, "Unfil wretch." Walter burst out laughing. When the laughter died, they adjourned to the tea room. Victor skipped the pleasantries. Julian screwed up and broke the York girl's heart, so I swooped in. Next month, the Yorker Hart wedding gets a new groom. Even Walter, who'd weathered every storm, was struck dumb by the blunt admission. Aren't you afraid the second branch will raise hell? I've got more power, money, and clout. If they want to fight, they'll be the ones humiliated. Walter set his cup down, eyes bulging. When they can't beat you, they'll come whine to me. Troublemaker. Victor savored his tea, utterly calm. You'd rather gain a daughter-in-law than lose a granddaughter-in-law. Since Victor turned 30, Walter had paraded prospective brides before him non-stop. When Victor stayed single-hearted, he even flew in a mainland doctor to brew virility potions. In all those years, Walter had rarely seen Victor want something this clearly. Hart asked once more. She's the one. Victor answered without hesitation. Yes, the only one for life. During the few days I spent at home, Victor and I texted every day. At first it was polite good mornings and good nights, photos of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Soon we were trading funny stories and calling each other. That night, the conversation drifted to my years at university in England. Victor listened quietly and said, "Next time you go, take me along." When the call ended, his low voice rumbled, "Skylar, I miss you. Move in soon." "All right." The sound hooked straight into the soft spot under my ribs. Electricity zipped from my ear to every fingertip. I managed a tiny then hung up fast. Lying in my wide bed, I replayed yesterday's call with my parents. Walter had rung to apologize for Julian proposing a dinner to iron out the revised ceremony a month away. Victor's no spring chicken. The Harts are gaining a bargain. I've watched Skylar grow up. No way we let her be wronged. Eleanor's voice quavered. "Skylar, if you're hurt, tell us." Richard, the born negotiator, added, "I met the Hart boy at a banquet." Hart said, "Hart transfer every asset to you." Swearart had never become a second Julian. Bit of an age gap, but the man's solid. I'd only meant to borrow Victor to escape my train wreck engagement. Yet Hart had gone above and beyond. Events had outpaced my script, and my heart was slipping its reins. Julian took the call mid-breakup. Hart had started seeing the girl because she was young, pretty, blank as paper, easy to sketch any fantasy on. Most importantly, she reminded him of Skylar before London. Back then, Skylar's world orbited only him, her eyes bright with reflected light. After 4 years abroad, she packed her life with dreams, hobbies, plans, herself first, Julian second. That self-possessed Skylar dazzled without trying, and it terrified him. Drunk one night, Hart had dialed her. The girl showed up and a mistake turned into a habit. Hart let himself sink into the fling. 3 months later, Hart was bored. No one could rival Skylar in his mind. Sniffling and wiping tears, the girl asked for more. Julian, annoyed, wired her extra cash. "I've paid enough. Don't contact me again." Or she fled in tears just as Julian's phone lit up with his father's call. His father started swearing the moment Hart came on the line. "Julian, is your brain flooded? You dared transfer the marital villa to someone else." Julian was already irritated. His tongue had no break. "I'm just taking after you. Your trail of scandals is way longer than mine." The volume on the other end shot up. "I've got scandals, but I still have a wife. You, on the other hand, haven't even walked down the aisle and you've already chased your bride away. Save the sanctimony. I don't see you treating Mom any better." Only after Hart hung up did Julian replay the last jab. chased my bride away. What does that mean? Exactly what it sounds like. You no longer have a wife. The York-Hart alliance can't just be torn up. The alliance is intact. Your wife has simply become your aunt. I'd barely stepped out of the weekly meeting when Ethan leaned in and whispered that Julian was waiting in my office and didn't look happy. I pushed the door open to find Julian in my chair. Eyes bloodshot, glare turbulent. Clearly Hart had heard about Victor and me. We stared in silence until Hart cracked. Hart sprang up, swept everything off the desk with a vicious swipe, face so dark it seemed wet with ink. When did you and Victor start screwing around? The words came out clenched, rage shaking his voice. Hart had been the first to cheat. Now Hart couldn't stomach the fallout. I curled my lips. On what grounds are you interrogating me, Julian? Wasn't it you who couldn't resist temptation? Wasn't it you who signed my carefully planned villa over to someone else? For a second, panic flickered in his eyes. Then the brute mask slammed back. So you sleep with someone to punish me for cheating? First, I didn't cheat. Second, you're not worth me dragging some random man into bed for revenge. If looks were blades, the way Hart devoured me would have sliced me to ribbons. Then why Victor? Is it that hard to grasp? I don't want to marry you. Julian's expression froze. Hart muttered, stunned. Impossible. You loved me most. The Yorks of Macau and the Harts of Hong had been close for generations. Julian and I were childhood sweethearts by default. Whenever our families threw parties bored out of my skull, I'd sneak off with him. We attended different grade schools, middle schools, high schools. Yet, we stayed in touch online and pledged to enter the same university. The day our Hong University acceptance letters arrived, Julian confessed. The boy held roses, words tumbling in knots. I rolled up his sleeve, spotted the crib notes inked on his forearm, and laughed until my sides hurt. Julian scratched his head, sheepish. I was scared I'd blank out. Soon everyone saw through us. Dad summed it up. Two people in love can't hide the light in their eyes. Junior year, our parents drew up the engagement. Julian seized the moment to propose. After graduation, I left for a master's in London while Hart stayed to learn the family business. 3 months after I came home, our wedding date was penciled in. I thought I was marrying the boy who once carried only me in his eyes, and I decorated Skylar with joy. Reality slapped me awake. Looking at the man whose lips trembled and eyes flailed, I felt everything had changed beyond repair. Julian, I loved the boy whose world was only me, but you're no longer him. My love is too precious to waste on a man unfaithful to marriage and to me. I love myself enough not to give you a second chance. Let's part with whatever dignity we have left. That evening, Victor picked me up from work. I want honesty and loyalty in a relationship, and those run both ways, so I told him Julian had come by. Victor stroked my hand. The black business suit made him look even more severe. Hart said nothing, but I caught the trace of displeasure. I climbed onto his lap, removed his glasses, cradled his face, and kissed him. In an instant, Hart seized control, pinching my chin, thumb brushing once, twice. Hart kissed me hard. Time stretched and slowed until only the two of us existed. When we broke apart, Hart tucked me against him and tugged my earlobe. You sure know how to sweet talk. His mouth crooked, eyes softening. I tilted my head, gaze bright and full of him. You're handing your entire fortune to me. Let me coax you a little. Nestled in his arms, I wheedled shamelessly. Victor, I want Chongqing hot pot tonight, extra spicy. Later, while I ate and Hart passed me drinks, we lounged on the sofa, each reading our own book. Separate spaces, separate pleasures, quietly sharing the same air. Felt surprisingly perfect. Victor felt my stare, closed his book and hauled me over. Look all you want. No need to steal glances. Pillowed on his thigh, I battered my lashes and said exactly what I felt. Victor, being with you feels amazing. Hart laughed low and magnetic. There's even better, want it? His assertive side ruled completely once we were in bed. I sobbed, clinging to his neck like a drowning woman grasping driftwood. Indulgence has a price. The next morning I couldn't crawl out of bed. Victor, slave to his schedule, headed to the gym at dawn. I stayed burrowed under the quilt, drifting in and out of sleep. When Hart was done, he fished me out and dropped a gentle kiss on my forehead, the next one threatening to wander lower. Irritable, I shoved him. Morning breath, I thought. Victor pinched my cheek. I don't mind. Just as Hart reached the door, Julian showed up with roses in hand. His bloodshot eyes churned with darkness, veins bulging at his throat. Uncle, you took advantage while I was down. I asked you to pick Skylar a flat and you steal my girlfriend. Victor looked down at him. I'll still choose the flat, only it'll be Skylar's in my marital home. Nothing to do with you. Besides, learn some boundaries. Once you break up, stop pestering your aunt. Julian's eyes flamed red. Get Skylar out here. Victor chuckled coolly. Your aunt just fell asleep again. She hasn't the energy to come downstairs. Like a maddened lion, Julian lunged and swung. Victor trains daily. Boxing is one of his few hobbies. Julian's showy posture is no threat. Outfought. Julian began shouting my name. Skyla, I know I messed up. Come out, please. I need to see you. Victor's face darkened further, a storm gathering in his eyes. Julian, don't push your luck. Your branch has been busy behind the scenes. Think grandfather Walter doesn't notice. You're threatening me. Not even close. But your yelling will disturb Skylar's rest. Unwilling to concede, Julian dragged the matter before Walter. Grandfather, Skylar and I started dating when we were 18. We became officially engaged at 21. And when she left Hong for grad school at 22, I waited 4 years for her. That's 8 full years of history. She can only be my wife. Walter teased the parrot with one hand while watching Julian's heartfelt performance. Before this, she barely knew Uncle Victor. They ran into each other only a few times a year and hardly spoke. She must have been forced into this. Grandfather, you have to stand up for me. When the torrent finally stopped, Walter set down the seed spoon. If you love Skylar so much, why did you go looking for another girl? Julian's frame swayed. His face went chalk white. Hart lowered his gaze, fingers curling inward. I lost my head for a moment, and I've already cut that girl off. She'll never appear in front of Skylar again. You shouldn't be telling me any of that. Victor and Skylar's marriage can't happen just because Hart wants it. But I really do love Skylar. I've liked her since we were kids. She's the only girlfriend I've ever had. I can't picture my life without her. Hart lifted his head, tugging his lips into a forced, hideous smile. Grandfather, can't you help me just this once? You favored Uncle Victor so many times. Why can't you tilt things my way for once? Walter's expression darkened, authority radiating without anger. You think I'm playing favorites here? Julian drew a long breath, met the crushing pressure, and voice trembling laid out what Hart truly felt. Haven't you? You're always meticulous, weighing cost and benefit. But with the wedding almost here, you switched grooms at the drop of a hat, and I had to hear it from my father. To drive the final nail into Julian's hopes, Walter arranged a family dinner at Hart and invited my parents, plus every Hart descendant. Just picturing the scene was awkward. Victor laced his fingers through mine. Don't worry, I've got you. I don't like gatherings like this either. Once we're married, we don't have to come back. My heart felt feverish. If we stay away all year, aren't you afraid they'll gossip behind our backs? I care more about whether you're happy than about what anyone else thinks. Meeting those deep, pitch-black eyes set my chest ablaze. I looked away, smiling and mumbling pretty speech. From the instant we stepped into the hall, Julian's stare clamped onto me. I greeted everyone in turn. When I reached Walter, I followed habit and called, Walter. Victor corrected me at once. Say Dad. Seeing my shy flush, Walter laughed heartily. No rush. You can ease into it. Julian's face darkened, his hanging hands clenched into fists. Hart mustered his courage and walked over, gazing at me with expectancy. Skylar, tell everyone right here. Were you forced into this thing with Uncle Victor? Don't be afraid. The elders are present. They'll see justice done for us. Even now, Julian believed I still cared. Had everything I said before gone in one ear and out the other? I answered him word by word. No, Victor never pressured me. I made the first move. Victor's arm circled my waist. Actually, I had the idea first. I'm the one who seduced Skylar. Julian staggered, his pupils shrank, some corner of his heart collapsing into dust. Impossible. No way. Walter stepped in to preside. I gathered everyone tonight so this can be settled once and for all. Skyla and Julian are finished. She is now Victor's fiancée. Throughout the meal, Julian tried to speak, but his parents pinned him down, and the instant dessert was cleared, they hustled him out. While Walter discussed wedding plans with my parents, Victor asked to postpone the ceremony. I don't want Skylar shortchanged. The new marital house isn't finished, and the entire celebration has been tailored to Skylar and Julian's tastes. When Walter wouldn't budge, Victor softened his tone. Dad, I stayed single for 30+ years. Finding a wife wasn't easy. In the end, the old man surrendered to his younger son's coaxing. Back home that night, the more I replayed, I had the idea first. I'm the one who seduced Skylar. The fishier it smelled. I pestered Victor. Were you already thirsting after me way back when? Hart refused to answer, kissing me silent whenever I asked. Each question earned another kiss. Not a single syllable slipped out. Hart cupped my waist. I tilted my head, drowning in the ocean of his eyes, forgetting to keep probing, forgetting to call for help, willing to stop breathing altogether. One entanglement led to another, and we tumbled onto the bed. Afterward, I lay across his chest and asked him to sing me to sleep. That husky velvet voice wrapping around a Cantonese lyric felt like the sudden flick of a cat's tail across my palm, fine soft tingles sliding straight into my bones. His gaze clung to me, soaked in scorching wholehearted love. I curved my lips and sank into sleep in his arms. For most of the night, the man beside me traced my outline with his eyes. When had Hart started coveting Skylar? Victor himself couldn't name the day. While she was away in the UK for grad school, Hart flew to London on business a few times and at family request checked on her. Watching that radiant girl on the lecture podium, Hart felt the quiet click of a door opening inside him. All Hart knew was that he wanted the pearl to shine forever. The day Julian signed over the marital apartment, Victor thought, chance knocks. Hart seized it, claimed the pearl for himself, and a hollow space in his life filled at last. The future weighs more than the past. Skylar never needs to know these things. She only needs to be loved. Under love's constant pour, that pearl will never dim. The end.